So here I am at the base of the X. I'm going to show you a few different running drills you can use when training on hills. And I want to explain to you why hill running is really important for learning two important techniques to use while running to improve both your propulsion and your shock absorption. First of all, let me explain two different types of muscle contractions. One is called a concentric contraction. That's the type of contraction we use when we are propelling forward. It's essentially when the muscle shortens as it contracts, to straighten the knee, to extend the ankle, to extend the hip, etc. The second type of contraction is called an eccentric muscle contraction. An eccentric muscle contraction is a little bit weaker than a concentric contraction generally, because the eccentric contraction is designed to allow the joints to move apart as the muscle contracts. So essentially the muscle lengthens while it's contracting. The eccentric contractions are the primary mechanism our body uses to absorb shock when we land while we're running. And the concentric contractions are the contractions our body uses to push us forward. The same muscles do both forms of contraction. For example, when you land on the ground, the quadriceps eccentrically contract to allow your knee to bend slightly to absorb shock, and then they concentrically contract to allow our bodies to propel forward. So when we're training on hills, the two essential components of hill training are going uphill and downhill, obviously. Going uphill, we're primarily training concentric contractions, and going downhill, we are primarily training eccentric contractions. So hills have two really important benefits. One, they make us faster by allowing our propulsion system to become more efficient, and two, going downhill increases our efficiency for shock absorption. So let me show you a couple tricks that you can use while training on hills. So here I am at the base of the X, and I'm going to try to position the video camera so that I can watch my feet, or you can watch my feet while I go. When we go uphill and downhill, there are two main things we're going to focus on. One is a short stride length. Especially during hill training, it's important to maintain a shorter stride length and a higher frequency. Number two, we're going to focus on not landing on the heel, but landing on the forefoot or midfoot, going uphill and downhill. While we're going uphill, nice short strides, fairly high frequency. You can maintain 170 to 190, that's optimal. If you're going much slower than 170, you're probably striding too much. Now you can't see it in this video, but my heels aren't even touching the ground as I land. I'm not going very, very fast. This is about a 9-minute pace, if I'm lucky. I'm also not watching where I'm going. Now, heading downhill, it's going to be similar. As you're going downhill, you really don't want your heels to hit first, like this. I treated a lady today who has been training on hills and is having a lot of anterior shin splint pain because she has a fairly heavy heel strike. And every time her foot hits the ground when she's going downhill, the tibialis anterior is trying to control the foot motion. So she lands and her foot slaps to the ground, which really stresses out the tibialis anterior. So instead of doing it that way, we're going to focus on a shorter stride and still land on the midfoot or forefoot. Again, a nice high cadence is optimal. And you can't see it, but I'm standing fairly erect. I'm not leaning forward very far. And my stride lengths are fairly short. Another really good option for you to try is to do this barefoot, especially if it's a nice grassy surface. The intrinsic muscles of the bottom of the foot play a pretty important role in shock absorption and propulsion as well. And they get their best training either in a barefoot condition or in a minimalist type shoe. So once again, as you're doing this, you want to maintain a nice rapid cadence. Most barefoot runners try to maintain about 180 steps per minute. And especially in the barefoot condition, you really want to avoid a heel strike. Going uphill, whether you're in shoes or barefoot, the contraction of the calf, especially the eccentric contraction of the calf, triggers a reflexive contraction of the hip. And I have a video that demonstrates that. And going downhill, once again, that shadow's in the way, but we're really maintaining a fairly high cadence. No heel strike. And the calf, the quads, and the hip muscles are all eccentrically contracting for shock absorption. So, as you practice these techniques, think about two things. Think about shock absorption as the muscle eccentrically contracts, and think about propulsion as you're going uphill with a concentric contraction. Hope you found this useful. Check out trekkleblog.com for some more information on this topic. Thanks for watching.